Hello listeners, we've partnered with ClassicFootballShirts.com where you can get your classic, rare, retro, vintage football shirts for your football team of your choice. I recommend a Parma kit. You know, there's some lovely options on the website. There's a referral link on our Twitter or in the description of the YouTube video. Click there, follow it through and enjoy. I say Parma, get it on you, it looks lovely. Look in the 90s. Ooh. Listeners, hello there. Welcome back to the episode of For the Fans. We're back again. It's 2017. It's our second show of the year. Some people never thought we'd get it. As ever, joined by Jack and Keno. Jack, how are you?
Well, not too bad. Delighted about the Lincoln result. That was a fun way to start the week.
We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And everyone's favourite Villa fan, I mean, the only Villa fan we know of, really. Callum Keane's joins us again. Keno, how are you?
We were just discussing the possibility of Villa playing in the Checkatrade Trophy.
It's what we're hoping for.
I won't get that pleasure, unfortunately.
And speaking of the lower leagues, we've got a fan of Portsmouth who's been on before, and he's back for a second time, almost becoming friend of the show. It's Christopher Proud, otherwise known as Proudy. Proudy, how are you?
Thanks for having me back. Yeah, I'm not doing too bad tonight. I look forward to...
Tonight?
Yeah.
Tonight.
What about the other nights?
The question is, Proudy, who's more surprised at your return? The viewers, us, as in me, Keno and Jack, or yourself? That's the real question.
Probably myself. I think I gave a good account of myself in the last time I was here. But,
when was that? That must have been...
That was a while ago now.
I wasn't around for some reason, so Proud took over.
No, Jack was being the game and battle operator, if I'm not mistaken.
On Time Commanders.
Yes,
on Time Commanders.
BBC 4
so
star.
Proudy stepped in. Just think, Proudy, a couple of years of doing this, and you could be on Time Commanders. You know, that's the dream.
I look forward to the possibility.
Right, as ever, boys, we're doing a feature, and if you listen to last week's show, listeners, you'll know that we did the top of the league trivia quiz that I got for Christmas. Now, we're delving back into the trivia set. I mean, I might as well get used out of it, otherwise it's
How many weeks are we going to get out of this?
It's ready until we run out of questions. So the way we're going to do this, obviously, we've got three people here, and it's going to be fastest finger first. Now, each of you got a buzzer. I've decided that the buzzer you're going to use is going to be Jack, Keno, Proudy. So, Jack, can we hear your buzzer, please? No. What you've done there is created a buzzer. Your buzzer sound is Jack.
That's really boring.
I know, but that's the best way to do this. Otherwise, you're going to be going.
Can I have a bit university trash? It's like Jack. You know, like a slightly.
Well, you're going to be saying it, so I don't mind.
Impeachment.
Jack.
Right.
I'll go with that. There you go.
Jack.
Buzzer
Keno,
works.
can we hear your buzzer, Keno?
Keno.
And Proudy, can we hear your buzzer, please?
Proudy.
Lovely. Right, okay. Now, the twist within all of this is that if you get the question wrong, your the two members of the opposition get the point.
Ooh.
The point?
Yeah. So they get a point each.
I might just not answer any questions and hope I can look out.
But if you do get the answer right, it is 2 points. So there you are.
Okay, well, that's my plan flawed.
Incentives from Ben.
There we go. Right then, boys. Question number 1. Who scored the first Premier League goal?
I don't want to say it.
If no one answers, I get 3 points.
Proudy.
So, Proudy.
Was it Brian Dean?
Correct answer is Brian Dean. 2 points to Proudy. Very well done. Next question.
Could Proudy be the new... You know, he comes in and sort of
it could be the feature champion.
The new Jack, as they say.
The new Jack. What team does Prince William support?
Keno.
He
doesn't support me, he supports my team. AKA
Aston Villa, correct. Yeah. Home advantage there, Keno. Who were England's fullbacks in the 1966 World Cup final? If you don't know this,
wasn't born then.
Yeah.
No, true.
I feel like I know one.
I mean, you think you do, Proudy, but yeah. I'm not sure.
Was that the obvious one? But I don't want to say it because it probably didn't play fullback.
No.
I don't know. I'm going to say I don't know.
Neither do I. You've got us, Ben.
Do you get half a point if you say one?
No, that wasn't the question. The correct answer is Ray Wilson and George Cohen. Were you going to say Alan Ball, Proudy?
No, I was going to say Nobby Stiles. But
unlucky.
Yeah.
Which England goalkeeper lost an eye in a car crash? I didn't know that.
Oh, Proudy. Gordon Banks.
2 points to Proudy.
Wow.
I think
Jack,
that's Felipe Massa.
Is your buzzer working, Jack? Jack, is your buzzer working, mate?
Yeah, it's working.
Wrong one. That's not the buzzer.
Sorry, Jack. Yeah, it's working.
Which flamboyant superstar became club chairman of Watford in 1976?
Jack. Elton
Jack.
John.
I'll give you the point. It's Sir Elton John. But Sir Elton John. I'll give you the point, though.
Thank you.
It's not technically his name, but it's okay.
Which English league side is the furthest north?
Jack. Carlisle.
No!
No!
We just cancelled
The correct answer
Can I have
is-
a guess? Or...
No, I'm afraid not. You get a point,
okay.
though. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
true. That's-
good enough. The correct answer, apparently, is Newcastle United.
Yeah. The Scotland border does slant from right to left, so Carlisle would be.
Hadrian's Wall does sort of go across.
Next question. Who is the only player to have scored in the Merseyside, Manchester and Glasgow derbies? Who's the only player to have scored in the Merseyside, Manchester and Glasgow derbies?
That's a really good question. But
I will give you a clue. This player hasn't played for 15 years.
okay.
But he's known. Obviously, because he's scored in the Manchester, Merseyside and Glasgow derbies.
I mean, presumably it's when he played at United and only United and then played in Scotland.
And the Merseyside derby, Jack.
Yeah, it means he's played for... Yeah, I was thinking that as well.
Didn't think of
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Boom.
that.
Really?
Don't know.
3 points to Ben. The correct answer is Andrea Konselskis,
Oh.
which I'm sure you have heard of the name of surely, right? Yeah? Well, Andrea Konselskis?
Yes,
Right,
but
good.
not who I would have gone for, so...
Where was the 1986 World Cup tournament held?
Keno. Oh, no, I regret that.
That's
Right,
unfortunate. You answered the question. Your buzz has got off.
Was it Mexico?
That's who
2
I was.
points
Gonna,
to Keno.
that's who I was going to guess.
Was
at,
it?
And I decided
Well
it wasn't
done.
worth it.
Oh,
Was it
yeah,
worth it? It was worth
I
it,
regret-
Keno. 2 points.
It was, yeah, it was. The risk paid off.
Okay, next question. What did all of these players win between 1989 and 1997? Paul Merson, Matt Le Tissier, Lee Sharp, Ryan Giggs, Andy Cole, Robbie Fowler and David Beckham.
What years, sorry? What?
1989 and 1997. Jack.
Young Player of the Year.
That's 2 points to Jack.
That's a good...
Well
yeah,
done.
good. Well done, Jack.
Very well
Thank
done,
you.
Jack.
Could have been a few things there, actually, that were sort of obscure. but-
Another World
yeah.
Cup related question. Where was the 1962 World Cup held?
Proudy.
Proudy.
Chile.
That is 2 points to Christopher Proud. What an answer.
It's almost as though Proudy's arrival has spurred on everyone.
I
Like,
know,
we're
everyone's
all-
doing
we're all-
fantastically
yeah.
well. The first football transfer over 10 million between British clubs was for which player?
God.
I want to guess this, but I think it's wrong. But I
Go on,
want to
Jack,
go
go
with
for
it.
it.
Well, I've not had a buzzer yet. So.
Jack.
Jack.
Oh, I wish I
I think
hadn't
it was-
done this.
He's locked in.
I think it was
He's
just
locked
Jack.
in.
Proudy was very close.
Is it Craig Gordon?
Point to Keno and Proudy. The correct
Craig
answer.
Gordon?
The correct answer was Alan Shearer. Blackburn to Newcastle.
Can we listen?
No, you didn't mean Craig Gordon, surely.
The
Scottish
keeper who
goal.
went to Sunderland.
You're an idiot. You are an idiot
Record
sometimes.
transfer. No,
What?
I think that's the record transfer between a Scottish Premier League and an English Premier League side.
That's not what he said.
Yeah, but I think it was over 10 million. I'm going to check now.
No, it was 7
I think
million,
it-
wasn't it?
I think it was 9 million, but never mind.
It was expensive at the time.
Right,
like,
3
sort
more
of
questions
09.
It was
to go.
9, it was 9
Three-
million. I hold up my hands and
No,
apologise.
9
to the
million,
listeners.
thank you. That's why I do the quiz every one, for those who are wondering. Who is the only English player to have won silverware at both Manchester United and Liverpool?
Jack. Michael Owen.
2 points. He's redeemed himself.
Yeah, but the thing is, Jack's taking like one step forward and one step back.
He is.
With these answers.
Well, then
I'm
there's not that.
trying.
He's just giving you both points every so
trying.
often.
Yeah, exactly. How long have we got then left?
Two more questions. Penultimate.
Do we have the
Who
standings,
is-
or have you not been keeping
I'll
count?
work that at the end. Who is the only player to have won the Champions League, Premier League, UEFA Cup, FA Cup, and to be relegated from the Premier League?
Wow. So, League Cup as well.
I'll read it again.
All of them.
Who is the only player to have won the Champions League, the Premier League, the UEFA Cup, and the FA Cup, but to be relegated from the Premier League also?
Jack. Oh,
Jack?
no.
Jack, is he giving 2 points away here?
I think it's Yossi Benayoun.
It's incorrect.
Oh, no.
I mean, a
Who
great
did he get
guess,
relegated with?
But
Wigan? Was Benayoun?
No, he's never played with Wigan.
No, the correct answer was Pompey Hall of Famer, Proudy.
Ah.
Come on, Proudy, you should have known this really, mate. It's Canu is the correct answer.
Oh, no.
I thought he left us. I thought he left us before.
No, he was part of the problem.
I thought he might have been relegated.
That's true,
It was actually
yeah.
Queen's Park Rangers I thought he might have been relegated with.
And the final question is: Manchester United were the first team to score 9 goals in the Premier League game
Ipswich.
against whom? Correct answer is Ipswich Town, and that then is about the scores on the doors.
I don't know if I've done really well there or absolutely terribly.
All I'll say is there's a lot of occasions where KP were written next to each other because you'd given points away. Right, well, I can tell you officially that I got 6 points from that because you've had to answer 2 questions. Proudy, 9 points. Keno,
Probably 9 points as well because of me.
7 points. And Jack, 8 points. So this week's winner is guest Christopher Proudy. Congratulations. Round of applause for Proudy for
Well done, Proudy.
I never thought I'd begrudge Yossi Benayoun and Craig Gordon so much in my life. But there you go.
It was a ludicrous answer, but I enjoyed it anyway. Okay, that is the winner of this week's feature. Proudy, words? Any words on
It's
that?
probably one of the highlights of my life so far. Yeah? I feel like everything after this is going to be downhill. So
You scored a hat trick. You scored a hat trick the other day on FIFA. So
I love that. That was probably the top 5 lifetime. Yeah. So we've got a new entry at least. Right then, let's talk about some football. The Premier League had a very interesting weekend. We'll touch a little bit on what's to come, but yeah, this weekend's football. Sky loved it, didn't they? Merseyside versus Manchester.
loads of goals everywhere. Lots
yeah,
of goals.
which is nice because sometimes you get very boring weekends, but actually this weekend there are quite a lot of goals. We're going to kick things off at Goodison Park, where Everton was probably the result of the weekend, I would say. Hull fans might be a little bit disappointed by that, but result of the weekend for many reasons. Everton 4, Manchester City 0. And we'll start with feature winner Christopher Proud. Is that the best you've seen Everton play this season, is the question I'm going to ask?
Probably. I think their home form has been one of the positives for Everton this season. I think away
one of the
from
only
home.
positives, probably.
Yeah, probably. I think it surprised me, actually, that it was 4-0. I thought that Everton would probably sneak a win. I didn't see I didn't see them scoring 4 and City failing to score at Goodison Park. But I think it's the way that Everton played, especially against a team like City, who had pretty much their strongest team out as well. So
injuries permitting,
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Everton are the team this season that started so well. You remember how they started the season? They were in the top 4 for the first however many weeks, and then all of a sudden dropped off and had what was a pretty terrible run when you think about it. Lukaku wasn't scoring. They had issues at the back, big issues at the back. It looks like they've settled those down. And Jack, we saw from Everton a side that this is what they are capable of, and this is what we've not seen enough of, especially in sort of the middle third of the season.
Oh, for sure. I think a big criticism for Everton, even going back to last season, was just their inability to defend. I think when Ronald Koeman was appointed, that was probably very much kind of, in the thought of the board. How can we tighten up at the back? And in this game, I mean, can you call a 4-0 a 4-0 smash and grab? Because that's kind of what it was to an extent in terms of the fact there's the 4 shots on target and they've all gone in. But at the same time, Everton set themselves up to succeed. They were happy to park themselves on the edge of the 18-yard box, but they applied pressure when they needed to and were quite willing to let, City kind of faff around on the ball. I actually thought, I think it was City... Who did City play a few weeks ago around Christmas? There was a game, it was on TV, and was it Liverpool?
Leicester, maybe?
It was Leicester. Was it? No, it was Hull. It was Manchester City v Hull. And Manchester City, I was playing Super 6, which if you don't know, do you know what Super 6? Have you done Super 6?
The Sky thing where you have to guess 4 results or whatever.
Torre was like the top point scorer based on short passes completed, because literally it was similar to this game in a lot of ways. Man City, they'd get so far, and then there was they were out of ideas, and their centre mid just kind of had their own little game of keep ball. And the issue with that is there was no real killer edge, there was no real penetration in the City attack. There was no, option. There was a few chances where perhaps, they created really good opportunities, but they just simply didn't cut Everton open enough. And, well, we know what Everton are capable of. They have very quick players on the break. They've got Lukaku, who's great at holding up the ball. And it was kind of one of those games where, Everton, obviously, they scored probably their first 2 goals at just the right times, right before and right after half-time. Yeah. And, I mean, it's just a game plan that's been executed well, and City just didn't really have a response for it. And Pep's reaction, I think, at 2-0 was very, very telling, actually, because he looked he was given up.
sort of staring at the floor. It was, for me, watching this game. I mean, I agree with parts of that. I don't agree necessarily that I thought City were that bad going forward per se. There were a few chances, particularly in the first half, when the Sterling penalty appeal where he should have really shot. There was a few where De Bruyne slid the ball across and Aguero could have scored and was, a few inches away from tapping it in. I think what I noticed from the game, just in general, was that it was almost, to me, a carbon copy, a flashback to watching Guardiola's previous teams, and particularly Barcelona towards the end of his time there, playing against the game that I mentioned to you guys at the weekend was, I think, the Bayern Munich game when he played. This could have been Villanova actually in charge. I can't remember the exact season, but I mean the idea was the same. Was that it was a team who had very, very sort of great players for the break. They defended really well. They had the quality to punish City every time that they went forward. Yeah. And Guardiola's football was shown up to be the kind of football that you can't come from behind with very well. No. I think he relies on, and as I say, it's a consistent flaw for me with his management style that we've seen for sort of 4 or 5 years. I love Pep as much as the next one. I think he's done so much for football, but there's a flaw in the way that his teams play. That if they go ahead, then they keep the ball so well that it almost guarantees them, the win at least, or it's to be in total control of the game. When they go behind in that sort of atmosphere against a team who is that good on the break, it happened against Real Madrid as well when he was at Bayern. They cannot mount a comeback. And I think that is made even worse by City's defensive problems, and we can probably talk about that a little bit later.
We'll come on City in just a minute. I want to focus with Everton a little bit. Tom Davies put in one of the best performances from a young player we've seen in the Premier League for a very long time. And it's exciting to see, especially from an Everton perspective, who have lost so many of their players. That'll be the fear, of course, won't it, that Tom Davies will perform like this again and again and get the attention of a bigger side. We've seen when we really move, of course, we've seen John Stones play for City, ironically enough, and move. Yeah. I know, obviously, he was brought through at Barnsley and then moved, but again, a young player that is being produced by Everton or being what would the word be? Being
reared
built up,
like an animal.
Being built up by Everton, being I can't think of the word. Tutored isn't the word I'm thinking of. Anyway, developed is the word I'm thinking of. Being developed by Everton and then being moved on to a side which is supposedly bigger and better. John Stones must have been feeling quite upset about this.
The Ronaldo chop was amazing.
Well, I was going to say, Paddy, have you seen a player like him? Is there any players you can think of, Paddy, that you maybe compare to Tom Davies in terms of midfield options that do what he does? He just looks like a very efficient footballer and with a little bit of craft as well.
Not off the top of my head, although I think what made me laugh was a lot of the Everton fans on Twitter over the weekend were comparing him to Iniesta. I thought,
it's a bit early for that, I feel.
Yeah, I was like, I did say, probably the only thing that he has over Iniesta is that he's got hair, but that's it. I mean, other than that.
Can I suggest a slightly more sort of realistic comparison? I think one of the players that is playing really well in the Premier League.
Neymar, I was going to say.
Thiago maybe Xabi. No, Dembele was what I sort of instantly saw when I was watching him play.
Keeps the ball very well, doesn't he, in that Dembele way, actually.
Stature is very similar. He plays in a similar manner in the centre of the park. Very difficult to shake off the ball. Passing's pretty good. Can beat a man, as we saw from the goal.
18
his
as well.
Technique's pretty...
18.
Yeah, that's the most sort of surprising thing. It's just what a mature performance it was, and they'll hope that he sort of. I think you mentioned Everton's form. One of the reasons that they have started to play well of late is Ross Barkley's form. He has really come back, and turned into, at least in the last couple of months, probably since Christmas, turned out very consistent performances, and they'll hope that he can sort of. Davis maybe will continue that path that Barkley has done, and they've kept hold of Barkley, of course. So. They'll hope that is the same kind of thing.
Can I just say, with the Davis goal, if you edited it and made it black and white, he just looks like a set footballer from the 60s or 70s. He's got that long wavy hair, socks halfway down his shin, like cardboard kind of shin pads where you just can't see them and they're just not there.
Put a copy of the Bible down there, is what you mean.
And it's the way he does this crazy run, and then he runs into like a defender who body checks him, and he's just straight back on his feet. The way he drove, I think, at the City defence, it was very kind of 60s football highlight reel, and I loved it.
Yeah. It wasn't like his Everton debut. He's played, I think this is his 7th appearance for them, so he's obviously been in and around the squad. But what a mature performance
I
from
will
an
say,
18-year-old.
Lookman, who came on, first Everton player to score on his debut since Samuel Eto'o.
Really?
It is 2004. Was that? I think.
Yeah,
I read that stat somewhere over the weekend.
What, Eto'o?
No, hang on.
You're a maniac sometimes. You say some things without thinking. Samuel Eto'o signed about 3 years ago.
Yeah, that was the last player to score on his debut for Everton.
Was it 2004,
do you mean 2014, not 2004?
I'm checking. Was it 14? What decade are we in? I meant 14. What decade are we in? It's because it's 4-0. It's because it's 4-0. The wires have crossed there.
And he scored in the plus 4th minute.
And Adebayo Lookman, he scored in 2007. What an incredible achievement now.
What a guy. A fantastic performance from Everton, though. Keeman's going to want to see this again. Now, we'll come on to Manchester City, who... Well, me and Keelan had a very big debate about this in our chats that we've got amongst friends. We're all in it. You two can get involved any time you want, by the way. But Manchester City looked like a shell of what we saw at the start of the season. And I'll come out and say now, I think... what no one's really talking about is how the disjointed nature of the squad. I think Pep has made some really bad decisions, some really naive decisions. I think looking back now, we'll certainly think getting rid of Joe Hart and bringing in Claudio Bravo is probably the biggest of the bunch, because you look at the core of this Manchester City team. The keeper went to Torino. They brought in someone else. They then brought in John Stones for 50 million, and I'm going to come on to John Stones in a minute, actually. Company's been out basically all season, as he seems to always be. You can't rely on him at the moment. You haven't been able to rely on him for a while. Yaya Toure has been dropped and then drafted back in. Next to him, Fernandinho has been suspended. Gundogan's been injured. You've then got Kevin De Bruyne, who is almost the only real mainstay in the side, but even he had an injury at one point. And Aguero doesn't know whether he wants to play or not because he's constantly getting suspended. So the core of Manchester City, you can put all the players around them. You can tell me about the problems at full-back and the problems down the sides and the problems at like the wing positions. But for me, that's what's made City so dominant in the last sort of 5 or so years, is that core players, that Aguero, Toure, Company, Hart, foursome. And you look at it now, you've only got Aguero, and even, as I say, even he's been suspended a lot this season. I
think Pep's been very, very naive. I feel like when you go into a new club as a football manager, no matter how big that side is, you can't kind of change things overnight. It's almost about compromising your first season. It's very much about, trying to find a balance.
Do you feel like he's done that in the wrong areas, though? I feel like he's done that at full-back, and it turns out that was probably the mistake he made.
Yeah, and I just feel like he's kind of gone in there, and City are just... Obviously, they're not... You don't expect them to play anything like what they played last season, but I feel like there's elements of last season which are distinctly lacking in this year's side, in terms of, not just in terms of kind of player personnel, but in terms of kind of the entire mentality of the squad. It's all very disjointed. It seems like when you watch them play, some of the players don't really believe in the system they're being kind of forced into playing. And I feel like Pep's gone in there, gone, this is my philosophy, this is what's worked for me before, this is what's going to work for me again. And he's obviously stuck to that. He's made personnel changes in the squad, players like Hart being dropped to bring in a player like Bravo, who he clearly fundamentally thinks is required to play the system of football he wants to play. And fundamentally, the system of football that he wants to play isn't working for him in the Premier League, and it isn't working in games like this.
I'll come to Proudy quickly. Proudy, do you think Guardiola's style can work in this division? Does he have to change his style, or is it a personnel issue?
I think we have seen glimpses that it can work. I feel like a lot of managers are like this, though, that they'll get set into a system and then they'll become quite stubborn around it. They won't change it. I think we've seen that because I think City
Arsenal fans see the Arsenal fans.
Yeah, hello.
City played the same formation pretty much every game, and he's now trying to force players into positions which I don't think they're capable of playing. Like Zabaleta playing as a defensive mid, I still can't get my head around that. I know it has shades of
puzzling.
Lahm.
That was really odd,
it has shades of Lahm at Bayern Munich, because Lahm was a right back, and then he moulded him into a defensive midfielder. Zabaleta is nowhere near the same level as Lahm. So,
he's about half the player.
Yeah, so I don't know how... I mean, he's got players like Fabian Delph who can play in the centre, but he doesn't play him. He plays a right back at centre defensive mid. So I know Delph's not really, probably one of your favourites, Keno, but I mean, he can still play in the centre. And you've got players like Navas who have got pace, and it probably would have... I mean, I think they had Holgate. Was that Holgate left back? I mean, put a
Yeah,
player like
he
Navas.
was left of the back three. Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, you put Navas against a player like Holgate, who is quite young. Although he did play quite well, I mean, he doesn't change the system. But I think it will work eventually. But he needs to. I think it's probably the training. Which
I should say, fundamentally, I do think Pep's system can work. But I think it's a system which, if individual mistakes within that system can be particularly costly, and we've seen that kind of with the defence. Yeah. And when players make mistakes, when you're struggling for form, kind of the magnifying glass gets put on them, and those mistakes, they really get exaggerated, and particularly with some of the results that City have had, you can see it having an effect on players, and I think John Stones is a kind of prime example of that. Not necessarily a player who maybe thought he'd be playing as much first-team football as he has this year, but given the price tag, he's certainly a player who you'd want to see making less mistakes than he has made.
I'll come to you in a minute, I really want to know what you think about Guardiola and how he'll attack this. But as Jack's brought up John Stones, I want to say, I think John Stones is getting an unbelievable amount of criticism for who he is and what he's done. You've got to think, Stones, is he 19 still? 19-year-old footballer?
I think he's just turned 20.
Just turned 20.
No. He's 23 in May. He's not as young as people think. That's one of the things.
What, Johnson's 23 in May?
Yes.
Sorry.
He is 22.
He's not as young as people think, and that's one of the things that actually irks me. People go, "Oh, he's a young player developing." I'm thinking, 23 years old, £50 million player, however much it was.
All right, well, he's 22, so we'll call him 22. Even do you know what? It could have been 24, and I would have made the same point. 22-year-old player. He doesn't set the price tag of 50 million. He's been brought in by City. You've got to think who's surrounding him, right? For every young player that's brought into a squad and developed, you look at how Manchester United did it, for example, with Rio Ferdinand and Wayne Rooney. There was a core of English players there to help bed that player in. Now, this is why I think the Hart decision is ludicrous, because you've got Claudio Bravo, who comes in, not a native English speaker. Admittedly, you've got Clichy and Sanya that have been in the Premier League a long time, both English speaking, but neither of which are leaders. Then next to him, you're going to put a combination of Otamendi or who else have they got at the back who's not company? I've lost my train of thought. Someone else.
Zabaleta, Kolarov, Clichy, Sanya. You thinking centre backs here? Or am I not helping you?
Yeah. No, I'm thinking centre backs. You just named
there aren't many centre backs.
Well,
Zabaleta's played centre back.
Yeah, and Kolarov has, so it speaks to your point.
But you see the point I'm making, and in front of him as well, you've got more players there that aren't natural English speakers. So John Stones has been thrown in that back sort of six environment as the only sort of natural English-speaking player. Now, and the other English-speaking player, I should say, in this squad is Raheem Sterling. Again, not particularly leadership qualities don't spring to mind when you think of Raheem Sterling. So he's been thrust in there to play this Guardiola style of football, which admittedly is keep ball, play it around, keep it for as long as you can keep it, and then hurt a team in the sort of the danger areas of either side of the box, and they pull it back, and Aguero's supposed to score. That is the ideal Guardiola goal, right? To play that sort of football. Stones is being asked way too much, in my opinion, from what Guardiola wants, and it's not fair. And I think journalists and fans need to realise that John Stones does not set the 50 million price tag. Yes, some of his individual errors are making him look pretty comical at times and at a ridiculous fee.
Talking of that comical errors, one of the things I love was that, for the fourth goal at the weekend, when he actually tried to kick the ball into the stands once, it didn't work and it fell straight to Lookman, who slotted it in. I did enjoy that. I
just think he's been dug out far too much, and I see it every single week on social media. Oh, John Stones, terrible player, no worth 50 million. He might be in a few years, but how is it? But we talk about the development of players, right, and how Everton is a very good place for that to happen. There's an argument to say that he shouldn't have left, and this wasn't the right time to move. Of course, from John Stones' perspective, you want to see him playing at the top level, especially from an English perspective as well. You would assume, I think we all did at the time, Guardiola is the perfect manager to get that out of John Stones. But with what's around him right now, do you think how important City's back five have been in the last few years and what's made them so good? Admittedly, they've got some fantastic flair players, but John Stones has been thrust in there as a 22-year-old, and I think it's kind of ridiculous to expect more from him.
I do think the point about English speaking is a little bit weak when you look at players who are part of that back four, players like Zabaleta, Kolarov, who've been in England now for 7 years. It's part and parcel of being a footballer.
But he's learning to be a centre-back, though. He's still got to learn to be a centre-back. He's still learning his trade.
But this is
He'll learn more with next to Jagielka than you think. I'll say this, Jack. Look at who Everton brought in. Who would have been one of the perfect defenders in the Premier League to teach John Stones the little nuances, and that's what I'm talking about when it comes to language, the little nuances of being a defender. Apparently, Pep Guardiola doesn't really train defending, which is baffling in itself. Ashley Williams would have been the perfect man to stick in there.
John Stones is coming up to 100 appearances in the Premier League. It's not like he's inexperienced. I partially agree with your point about the fact perhaps some older players around who need to step up. But at the same time, a big kind of point that a lot of Everton fans would have said about him, particularly kind of last year and the year before, was he's quite a mature player for his age and quite intelligent. And I feel like the price has perhaps got to him a little bit psychologically. And I feel like he's made some errors which he probably would have not made, at Everton. And I think that's partially down to confidence. I think that's partially down to the fact he is playing for a bigger club now. And I feel like a player like Otamendi really isn't helping him as a centre-back partner. But at the same time, you can say £50 million doesn't dictate, how good a player is. But I think it should dictate to an extent how much you expect to get from that player in terms of their performances. And yes, he's had his fair share of bad luck. The prime example being that fourth goal for Everton at the weekend. But at the same time, fundamentally, he's a player who's 23 in the not-so-distant future, had a massive price fee attached to him. And right now, I think the majority of City fans would say he's not putting in the performances that they would have expected from the player, regardless of price, just off the player himself at the start of the season.
I don't disagree with anything he said there, but I do feel as if he's been dug out way too much. But Kino, we'll come to you then. City, hello. What do we do with where do Man City go from here? Are they out of the title race?
I think they are out of the title race. I think it would be an achievement.
Well, he said that himself as well, I believe.
Yeah, I think they're having a transitional season that not many people at City probably expected. Most people didn't expect. I think the problems are down to three things I sort of noted down. Obviously, we've just spoken at length about the squad and the holes in the squad. City had that core of Tart, Company, Torre, Aguero, that have all, and the players around them like Zabaleta, etc., Sanya, Clichy, who are all aging at the same time. It's an old squad.
I mean, we all age at the same time, but.
Well, no, because they were all at the same age when they were bought, that's what I mean. And so they're all getting over 30 at the same time, which isn't really good, because now Guardiola is faced with a large-scale rebuilding job where he'll have to bring in 5 or 6 players, maybe in one window, and sort of assimilate them all into the team. That's tough. So I think it'll take him another 2 windows to do that minimum. And I think, obviously, we just mentioned the squad. I think there are problems with, as I mentioned at the beginning, the way that I think Guardiola tactically approaches games in the Premier League. We saw those kinds of matches when he was at Barcelona and Bayern Munich where they get countered and have heavy defeats, maybe once or twice a season, because the leagues that they were in are just different in style. You wouldn't get a team that would sort of be so aggressively kind of countering you in the way that, say, Everton would do when Bayern are playing, Hoffenheim at home or Barcelona are away at Granada or something. They can control those games. And I think just the proportion of matches you get in the Premier League that are more like sort of high-level games in, say, the Champions League, where teams are really good at countering and can punish you, is higher, which is why
very difficult to implement a style in this division.
Precisely, and Jack said at the very beginning of this little segment that he thinks it will work. I also think it will work eventually. He needs the players to do it, and he needs to just sort of get iron out those few little kinks in the sort of philosophy that are sort of giving these hiccups. I think it'll just take time. Like I say, I think City are having a transitional season that no one expected, and I think they're out of the title race. They could still finish top 4, but City, another thing to sort of finish it off, they have the money to give Guardiola time.
It's January. Is he going to? Do we think? Does anyone think he's going to spend? Proudy, Jack, do we think he's going to spend?
I doubt it.
Who do you bring in? That's at this time of the year, because January is normally the hardest transfer window to actually do business in, and normally
all the best players are in Europe. Yeah, so
it's panic buying. Who do you bring in?
Go to Brazil and get Gabriel Jesus. Jesus! Is it Jesus?
Is he now here? Then is that
that's done.
Yeah. He's arrived, but he was ineligible to play in these few games in early January. I think we'll see him in the next couple of weeks. But to be honest with you, I mean, he looks a fantastic player attacking wise, but he won't solve their problems at the back. And like you say, I think it will be a relatively quiet January just because you can't get much business done. And then we'll see, a real interesting period for City in the summer.
Yeah,
when Guardiola will really be judged.
That is going to be fascinating to see what he does in the summer.
I do think one thing that's kind of interesting is just where City could end up this year, because I feel like if you'd gone back to kind of last year and said City are going to finish 5th, fans would have been calling for whoever ended up in charge's head. And I think Pep Guardiola almost has a little bit of a free pass this year. because of
Oh,
who
yeah.
he
Well,
is.
I think any
think
manager,
so.
though, to be fair to Guardiola, I think any manager coming into City now would have had to have done this rebuilding at some point because this squad is getting old together. And so it's always going to happen. I think the fact that people over here like to sort of, hate on Guardiola a little bit in the sense that they're almost...
Are you saying, that Guardiola is the David Moyes of Manchester City in the same way that Sir Alex Ferguson left quite a traumatic time for the next manager?
Van Gaal's retired, so that's...
Actually, he hasn't retired. He's on a sabbatical, Jack.
Oh,
He's not actually retired. Sorry.
Excellent.
But yeah, but I think people are maybe, some people in the media and stuff are looking for Guardiola to fail because it's England. But, he'll be given time. City have got the money to give him time.
Yeah.
And, we'll, it's a long-term thing with City.
Indeed. So, disappointing result for them. Another team that won 4-0, though, Spurs, looked very good against West Brom. And Harry Kane, one season wonder, Jack, but he's back to his goal-scoring form that we know him so well of in the last few years.
He's got like 4 informs in FIFA. That's when you know a player's doing well, and they've got the informs in FIFA multiple times. I think he's up to an 88 rating. He's as good as Aguero is. No, not quite. He's been...
I saw a statistic. Sorry, I saw a statistic. I don't know if anyone else did on the value of. I can't remember what company it was done by, but it was someone like Forbes or something. The value of players. So the top 10 in world football. Neymar now had become number 1. Harry Kane and Dele Alli, I think, in terms of their market value, endorsements, where they're playing. I think Kane came to about the 8th most valuable player in the the world or something, next to Ali in terms of age. Sorry, just interjecting.
I love stats like that, but...
Yeah. I'll try and find the link.
Have you got any stats, Jack?
No, well, I was going to say, I think the bizarre thing with this game was Harry Kane gets the hat-trick. He probably could have had more. There was a few great saves, chances that he had. There's a few opportunities perhaps he should have done a little bit better with. I mean, it's a bit of a... it's the result that you expect, but then given how West Brom have been this year, you almost anticipate it to be a... the kind of fixture that's going to trip up a team like Spurs. I
thought it was.
I think 2 years ago I went to Spurs v West Brom at White Hart Lane, and it finished 1-0 West Brom, and it was a header from a corner that won them the game. Only shot on target of the match.
Who scored, Jack?
I wish I could tell. I want to find out now to tell you, but it wasn't a very memorable game. It was in a lovely little cushy press area of Spurs, and it was awful because it was just such a... It was probably the worst game of football I've seen live. I mean, West Brom. So
that's a shame. Keno, I'm going to ask you about Vertonghen. How big a deal is that then? Because he's been a mainstay and a pivotal part of how good Spurs are. Spurs' defensive record is exceptionally good.
Best in the league.
But I don't want to ask you. I don't want to ask you about the league title potential. So I want to know how big of an impact this will have. Will this be the kind of thing that derails what is so far a very, very good Spurs season?
Well, to give it context, I think Vertonghen went off. And he had the scan and he's had ankle ligament damage, I think.
2 months.
He'll be out for 2 months, yeah. So I think if it was any other team in the Premier League who had lost Jan Vertonghen, you would say that would be a huge miss. But I think Tottenham also have 2 of the other best centre-halves in the Premier League in Alderweireld and Dyer. And I know they've been playing through at the back in the last sort of 3 or 4 games. But it'd be very easy for Pochettino to sort of switch to the back 4 with those 2, and then they're 2 outstanding fullbacks that we can talk about in a minute. But I don't think it will be that much of a miss. It certainly won't derail any title ambitions they might have.
You don't think so? Do you not think it'll play a big part?
I think he would, but I think the only difference it will make for Spurs, maybe in the short term, is that if they don't want to carry on with the back 3 and put someone like Carter Vickers in there or Wimmer.
I was about to say they have got Wimmer, who has played quite a bit of Premier League football.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Injuries have happened.
And he hasn't looked that good in this back.
I was going to say, he's not as good as Vertonghen, by any stretch either. So we'll have to wait and see.
I think he'll just switch to a back 4 if he needs to, and go back with Dembele and Wanyama in the middle. Yeah. Those 2 at centre back.
Praddy, we'll get you on as a guest. Me and Jack don't necessarily think Spurs are quite yet title contenders. Jack, is that fair enough?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
There or thereabouts. Whereas Callum Keane thinks that the trouble's on. So, what are your thoughts on Spurs this year? Do you think they are true title contenders? Can they be a team to seriously challenge Chelsea, or are Chelsea too far away? Or are Spurs good enough as well? That's kind of the question.
I think I remember talking to someone about this, and I was saying that Spurs last year, I think it was surprising what with Leicester, and then Spurs were pretty much their only challengers for most of the season until they ended up finishing 3rd because of losing Newcastle or whatever. I think with Spurs, they need to build the team more to challenge consistently. I think this is going to be their second season where they're going to be challenging for the title. They're second in the league, still 7 points behind Chelsea, and they've beaten Chelsea as well. But I mean, Chelsea is still rolling on even after that defeat. So I think they still need to build the team. I think the core of the team is there. I think there's, essentially you need the experience of a title race in order to compete. And these players are getting the experience. They're young as well. So I mean, Harry Kane, Dele Alli, they're getting the experience of a title race. And then in seasons to come, they'll be more accustomed and more well equipped when it comes to the gritty final few months. Because I think last season that's what failed them. I think they they were thereabouts, but then they just started losing steam, and I think that was probably inexperience that cost them, because Pochettino's probably never been in a title race. I mean, he was at Espanyol and then Southampton.
He's not, yeah.
And then players like Harry Kane, Dele Alli, as I've said, Wanyama, they've never been in a title race. So I think probably consistency and then complacency.
Third time's the charm.
Yeah,
next year.
I think they could. I think
Kino,
they could.
hang on, whoa! Sorry,
Yeah.
Paddy. Kino, are you saying it's not going to be happening this year?
No, I was just sort of giving Proudy a little bit of sort of assistance. But I think,
Yeah,
I think the one thing that appears to be different this year about Spurs, not only is, I think, their central midfield partnership better. I think Wanyama has been. Dembele's hit top form, which we all know he can do.
I think he's brilliant, by the way, Dembele. Doesn't get anywhere near enough credit. One of my favourite players in the league, I dare say.
Yeah, Carl Walker said in an interview the other day that when they play against him in training, he hates playing against Dembele because he's impossible to shake off the ball.
Yeah.
And you see that every game where he'll sort of just do a little body shimmy. He doesn't have quick feet per se, but he just sort of glides around players. But they have him at top form. Obviously, Wanyama's been fantastic, particularly in the last sort of 6 weeks over Christmas. He's really sort of turned up. That game against Chelsea was, I think, one of the best midfield performances of the season.
He's been far better for Spurs than I thought he would be. I didn't know how he fitted in, really. But actually, he's been very, very good.
Exactly. And then you have that core of sort of young players, particularly the fullbacks, Danny Rose and Walker, who are incredible. The way that they have sort of matured, particularly Rose, I think actually. I saw Henry Winter tweet at the weekend that his progression from a player that I think people when he was out on loan at Sunderland and had sort of been knocking around the Spurs team for a few years, never really made the place his own. From that point 3 years ago to where he is now. Arguably England's best. I mean, one of the best left backs in Europe at the moment. I think if you look at his stats in terms of chance creation,
as good as David Alaba, I would say.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably better than
Andy King and David Alaba.
That was a call. For anyone that's confused, that was a call back to our England shows or our Euro shows.
But yeah, I mean. Actually, I think statistically the best fullback is James Milner. But anyway, that transformation at the fullbacks and obviously Ali, Kane, they have that core who are maturing at the same time. It's sort of the opposite of what we were just talking about with City, really. They are on the up, whereas City is sort of over the hill. And I think they could still do it this year. I think Pochettino's made the right transfers just to, almost like the Kante to Chelsea thing, just the one transfer or two.
Yeah.
That have enabled them to go that little bit further. As I said, the only thing that I could see, I said this last week, that could really be a problem for them is that they're 5 points behind Chelsea at the moment. They've played Chelsea twice already, and they won't have any chance to get points back against Chelsea.
Yeah. They're actually 7 points behind as well. It gets worse, but yeah.
And so they're relying on Chelsea to drop 7 points without playing them, which I think is a big ask the way that they're going.
They essentially need the teams around them to then beat Chelsea, which is a sort of a catch-22 in itself. I think what we can take from what Kino said there is that Danny Rose is lucky that James Milner's retired from international football. I think that's what we can take from it. Disappointed for West Brom, who have been playing pretty well over the last few months and weeks. They're still an 8th, though.
Can I just add one thing about this game, because it was really
add something, Callum.
I didn't hear Danny Murphy, who commented on this game on Match Day, give West Brom the same treatment that he gave Aston Villa, who also played Tottenham at White Hart Lane. We lost 2-0. West Brom lost 4-0. Danny Murphy was quite annoyed during that FA Cup game that the Villa weren't even trying, that we didn't contribute anything, that we just turned up to stand and be dummies while the sort of the second team of Spurs that included, Son and Ali and others sort of, walked round us. West Brom didn't touch the ball for the first 45 minutes.
Do you feel like
okay?
Have you got off your chest? Have you got your chest
Not
like you
a
know? You've been annoyed about this for a while.
Yeah,
So
I'll tell you what. After the podcast, I'll get my
Never before.
I'll get my little chair set up. I'll sit next to it and take some notes for you. You can tell me all about your problems.
So blatantly biased. Fuck you, Danny Murphy.
scored at Old Trafford for
Explicit.
Liverpool.
You're not coming on the podcast.
Friend of mine. Me and Jack were very complimentary of Danny Murphy during the World Cup. Jack, do you remember that?
Yeah, I still think he's quite good. I think Kinner's just a bit bitter.
Oh no.
You know,
Okay, let's
being the small. They've lost to Wolverhampton Wanderers.
whole Bournemouth.
Look it up, guys.
Whole
Look it
Bournemouth.
up.
Hole 3, Bournemouth 1. I'll take it back, Hull fans. I think Europe's possible.
I said I need to hold them out. Last week I said Hull would never win another game this season, so I'm going to say it again this year, so they'll win again. This is how I'm going to get Hull over the line. Hull are not going to win again this weekend.
Okay.
Paul Merson.
Yeah, well, Marco Silva, we said last week that Merson and Thompson were saying some bollocks, weren't they? And Marco Silva shut them up quite nicely with a win over Englishman Eddie Howe's Bournemouth. It's a fantastic result for Hull. And I think there's a sneaky suspicion they might. I hate to say this because of what I said at the start of the season. They might even stay up now.
Well, they're only in the relegation zone on goal difference.
Well, look at Palace. Is what my point I'm making. Palace are awful. So Hull have got every chance of
I enjoy
doing this.
now the fact Palace are talking about selling Benteke to reinvest elsewhere. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, do we think... proud of you, even. Do you think Robert Snodgrass is so important to Hull that if they sell him at any price, it's a bit like Jermaine Defoe at Sunderland?
I wanted to rant about this, so I'm glad you brought this up.
Yeah, like Snodgrass is getting sort of £6 million bids from West Ham. Yeah. West Ham don't really... I don't think West Ham know how much a player's worth.
Jake Livermore's had a deal of £10 million rejected for him by West Brom. So, I mean, Snodgrass is way more important. And also, they put in a bid for Snodgrass. Snodgrass signs a new deal, and then they go, we'll offer him, a few million more. It's not how it works, West Ham.
What do you think then, Proudy? How important is Snodgrass? Obviously very important, but at what price do you think Hull could maybe even think about selling?
Well, I'll start off with a stat that I've just found.
Oh, lovely.
That Robert Snodgrass has been directly involved in half of Hull's 20 Premier League goals a season. He scored 7 and assisted 3.
Some good on the on-the-fly maths there, Proudy, that you figured out that was half. That was good.
So I think for Hull, he's sort of I can't remember the player. It's just gone out of my mind. The player who's sort of Defoe. It's sort of like Defoe with Sunderland.
It's very similar in that they've both scored the same amount of goals and obviously both equally important.
It's West Ham's theory, if we sign the good players from all the other relegation candidates, will survive. Is that what they're thinking?
To be fair, Jack, right, that looks like that's what's going on. Crystal Palace are going, go on, West Ham, go on, do our work for us. Again, price on Snodgrass.
I think at least, well, considering like the current market, I would say at least 15 million.
15? I'm interested.
15. I mean, I think that's
not too bad.
I think was it Ollie Burke is the most expensive Scottish player? I think Snodgrass is worth more than him. I mean, to Hull City, definitely.
It's interesting about sort of perceived value because on paper, I mean, I don't know how many years Snodgrass has got left on his contract. And
he expires next summer.
Exactly, and I mean, he's not young. So on those kinds of grounds, you wouldn't really consider him that valuable a player. But in this current situation, and same as Defoe, exactly the same as Defoe, what he is actually worth to their respective clubs right now is, massive. And I think 15 would probably be about right. In terms of the game, I thought it was quite impressive how, after conceding a penalty in I think like the 3rd minute, it looked really bad. And you'd expect a team that's had as torrid a season as Hull to have sort of
crumbled.
I saw it last year with my team to fold. But what was really impressive was how they sort of dug in. Abel Hernandez's goal and general performance was really impressive. And he's been a player that I know is really good for Hull in the Championship, but hasn't really been... I think he's been injured for a couple of months, to be fair, but not been that pivotal for them so far. It was a good finish and a good performance, and he could be the kind of player that other Premier League teams probably would have in their squad, at least. That kind of player could keep them up. And as I say, it's only goal difference now, and there are teams playing worse than them.
I think the scary thing for Hull is that Abel Hernandez has scored as many goals in that game as he has in the 30 before it. So exactly. I think that's the fear. Interesting, but like the thing that stands out for me, especially when you sort of look at it all, is that Hull had, I think it was 20 less percent possession, they're about 40%, but their chance creation was so much more than we've seen in recent weeks. And I think that is, you mentioned the goals, the more chances Hull have, the more likely they are to score. And I think that is what Marco Silva might bring to this whole side.
I will say there is a little bit of an issue, I think, creeping in for Bournemouth here. I think they've conceded now 3 goals in 7 of their last 9 Premier League games.
Yeah.
Like they are,
That's a lot, isn't it?
They're leaking a lot of goals, and it's all very good having 60% possession away from home against Hull. Like, you've got to make something happen with it, or you're going to get undone. If a team like City can be undone by Everton, no disrespect to Bournemouth, but you are a team
Is
that...
Eddie Howe the new Guardiola? Or the new
I mean,
Wenger?
yes. I'm going to say it now.
That's the question.
Is he the new Sam Allardyce? So yeah, not very good for Bournemouth, but very good for Hull. Now level on points with Crystal Palace, who,
How
as
many
I said,
points have they got now, Ben? Hull?
double what I said they would get, Kino.
Okay.
So there we are. Same amount as Crystal Palace, who I was just down Palace. Palace have now lost 5 of their last 7, and actually haven't won in that time either. So Sam Allardyce, the Sam Allardyce effect, everyone. He's come in, done the
They have
job.
scored the
talk
joint
about-
most goals, though, in the bottom half of the table, so you're going to get goals with them.
What,
We
with
talk
Palace?
about the new manager bounce. Hull have had it, but we have not seen it with Allardyce at all, have we? They have just been, exactly the same as they've,
I like to
most
think
of the season.
Pardew hasn't actually left yet. He's just sort of lingering in the corridors.
Maybe he's like wearing an Allardyce suit. And
I'd like to think
coming in.
Big Sam walks towards his office. Pardew's there leaning up against the wall playing on his phone. All right, Alan? Yeah, all right, Sam? All right? Yeah, I'm all right. Okay, just go to his office every single day. Pardew's just still there, just,
There's like
just
a
waiting.
tactics board that Sam Allardyce sets up and Pardew sneaks in behind and changes it all back to his old
Moves the magnets around. Moves around the magnets.
Well, yeah, because I bet Allardyce sits in front of a computer when he does it because he loves his pro zone. So, Pardew's
Sam
there.
Allardyce
sort
is
of-
the kind of man who pre-match, I can imagine getting like out a PowerPoint presentation of how they're going to approach the game.
Definitely. But he'll have done it all himself, and he'll be really pleased by like the animation.
I was going to say,
in the
I'll have those
PowerPoint.
little transitions, the text whizzes on screen and he's loving
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Well, there
he
was
will
a
be.
time when he was famously really into that when he was with Bolton. I'm not sure how much he'd do it anymore. I feel like he's sort
No,
of turned
don't
into
ruin
more
this.
of
Don't ruin this, Kino. Okay,
See, if
please
I
don't
was a
ruin
manager, I'd be more of like a classic manager. I'd get Sabutio men out and do it that way. That's how I'd be like, everyone crowd around this table. Practical lesson time, right? This is what
Indeed.
you're going to do.
Right, we're going to cover one more game and then come on to some listener questions, a few other little bits and pieces after this. This particular podcast for the Fans Show have linked up with ClassicFootballShirts.com, the home of the classic rare retro vintage football shirts. All of the shirts are original and officially dating from the seasons in which they were worn. You can find a referral link on Twitter in our YouTube description. If you're interested in that sort of thing, get yourself one. Honestly, the range is ridiculous. There's a Norwich away kit, a Parma home kit, anything you want. It's madness. Okay, welcome back. Remember, get your classic football shirts. Proudy, you've actually bought some classic football shirts from from ClassicFootballShirts.com, right? Or Colour
Yes,
UK?
that is correct,
Oh, God. Which one is it? Do we know? Is it Colour
what did
UK
you
or
get?
com? Oh, God, what have I done? Let's start that again. That was a mess. Is it Colour UK?
I think it's .co.uk, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right, welcome back. Speaking of classicfootballshirts.co.uk, Proudy, you've purchased some before. What have you got from there? Anything nice?
I've got a liking to Porto. I've bought quite a few Porto
Have you?
shirts from there.
I was not
yeah.
expecting that.
Yeah, Porto.
No.
I like to buy European shirts from Classic Football Shirts. So I've got Porto, Galatasaray is up there, Toulouse.
Oh, you're quite the collector, aren't you,
yeah.
Craig? forgot
I think
about
if I was
this,
going to collect them, I wouldn't collect like a specific team. I'd follow a player's career, like get Nicholas and Elka. Get all the different kits and then just get a random one in China.
God.
Yeah, I
He's
wouldn't
only
want
got so much
Bolton,
money. Jesus. That's good. Yeah, that's good money. Okay, then. Let's crack on with some more Premier League chatter then. Now you've bought your classic football shirt. Manchester United won, Liverpool won. It was a draw, by the way. I didn't say one there. I meant one. It was an interesting game. It didn't really have... I don't know, Mourinho and Klopp were both a little bit, yes, it was okay, that sort of attitude. That was my European accent, if anyone wondering. It was all right, wasn't it? It wasn't the showstopper we're all expecting, although Paul Pogba's handball is one of the best things in Premier League. And speaking objectively, not just from a Liverpool perspective, that is one of the best things to happen in the Premier League this year.
I enjoyed the fact that as he was having... to be fair, Pogba's been pretty good recently. He had a shocker this game all round, particularly in the first
It was
half.
great because there was the Pogba hoardings
I was
around
about to
the
say,
side. That made it...
Yeah, I enjoyed that while this was happening, his new emoji was being unveiled. His new hashtag Pogba little picture
it was
thing
trending.
on Twitter was also being unveiled, and he was having a shit game, which I thought was just great.
Yeah.
All the marketing was,
I'll say now, it would not have happened under Sir Alex Ferguson. Would it?
and absolutely not.
It would not have happened. it's the kind of thing for me that both teams at the end of the season will look back and go, that was all right, wasn't it? United will be happy with what they did at Anfield. Liverpool will be relatively pleased with what happened at Old Trafford.
I think given United's form as well, the fact they've won like 7 on the bounce, whatever it was, like it was always going to be a tall order for Liverpool. So I think just to stop kind of that was, pleasing enough for Liverpool.
Yeah. Proudy, who do you think's happier from that game? Who had the best of it? Who came out the winner, really? I know it was a draw, but...
I would say Klopp, because I think United, they needed to win that game because they're still struggling to break into that top 6. Top 5, top 4. And I think Klopp would probably be the happier. Old Trafford's never the easiest place to go. I mean, even the last few years, aside, still not the easiest place to go to. And I think to get a draw is probably a good result. I mean, I can't remember too much from the game. There wasn't many highlights.
Such was the nature.
Pogba's dab was my highlight.
Pogba's dab. I did like one of the tweets I saw. It was about Paul Pogba when he played Swansea and West Ham, and it was actual Paul Pogba, and then it was like any other of the top 5, and it was his brother who plays in like the French lower leagues.
I quite like that.
Yeah.
I feel like you are king of the socials, Proudy. I feel like that.
I like to stay on Twitter, stay up to date. I've got to be current.
If you became more regular, what's happening on social media would come to you for that. I reckon that's good. Manchester United recently have announced that they've let Depay go to Lyon, which is interesting, isn't it?
Is that definitely happening now?
Yeah, it's gone. He's gone. 21. I think it's 16 rising to 21.7, including add-ons, and a buyback clause has been agreed. So obviously they don't want another Pogba situation. But the interesting thing is that the reason he's been let go is because Manchester United finally seem to have found a front 4 that works. Jack,
yes.
What's your favourite component of the front 4? Is it Zlatan? Is it Mkhitaryan? What is it?
I think it's Mkhitaryan. Just because he's a player who wasn't really given a chance initially. There was all this talk about how he wasn't Mourinho signing and he wasn't playing him. And it's like he scored a scorpion kick. He's endearing himself well to the United fans.
That's one way to do it, isn't it?
They're kind of... he's a bit of a fan favourite already without playing a lot. I feel like he was a player, actually, who, when he wasn't playing, United fans were sticking up for him, despite the fact he barely actually played on kind of the pitch for Manchester United. So I feel like to see him now kind of forcing his way into the side has been kind of a nice little transformation to see. Talking objectively, of course, not through kind of my gritted Liverpool fan teeth.
Yeah, I think his form has been a factor into why they're suddenly playing so much better. It was interesting, in this game, it didn't, the Manchester United front 4 didn't function as fluidly as it has done in recent games. They played all right, though. I didn't think they were bad. No one played that badly apart from Pogba, really. He was
the linesmen
breaking down.
Badly.
Do you know what, though? I know the position of the linesman's bad and Valencia is slightly offside. There's enough time after it for me to not be that upset about it. Sure, it should be offside, but it's like, you got 20 seconds. If you can't deal with it from that point onwards, it wasn't like a game-breaking moment, like he'd run through and scored. I don't know. I don't feel like there can be too much disappointment from a Liverpool perspective. Sure, you want him to get it right, but I mean, even I'm a bit like,
I agree on that. The ball sort of flew over the box a couple of times before, the goal went in. To be
fair,
such
a cop out to blame it on that.
Yeah, I just think because it came to Fellaini, who had nodded it back across, and then it got scrambled in after that header.
Well, it wasn't just scrambled in. It was a fantastic finish. I did want to mention.
How does Zlatan's got an amazing neck? Hasn't he?
He's like a giraffe.
He's just so big and strong, and any other player there, they would have tried to duck for the header or tried to have a touch, but he got so low.
Andy Carroll.
I think. We could have spoken about that, which was absolutely incredible. We kind of
Andy Carroll is like Zlatan if Zlatan hadn't tried as hard.
Yeah.
I feel like, and so Andy Carroll's got all these sort of facets to his games.
Yeah,
but he could do some fancy things. Like he scored a magnificent bicycle kick. But if Andy Carroll really applied himself, didn't do all the drinking, just focused on being this sort of tank of a footballer.
I actually think the secret is talking about yourself in the third person. If Andy Carroll started talking about himself in the third person, he'd be fine. Confidence.
I would like to think he'll just start doing that now. Just from now on, he'll just go, well, my favourite thing about... He'll put on a bit of a European accent as well, because, he has to try and fit in with that culture of being a little bit up yourself. So I'll be giving it
I've got the image of the Steve McLaren interview.
Are you saying all Europeans are up themselves, Ben?
No, I'm just saying that he can't do it as a Geordie, Kino. So it doesn't really work.
I don't think his name works. I don't think his name works either, because Zlatan, it sounds, it has some purpose. I mean, just saying Andy...
He can't help that, though. We can't change his name.
He could... put a
I'd
twist on it.
change his name by
you know.
default, like his Xbox gamer tag, and be called like Zandy. You know, just stick a Z in
Zandy.
it to be called Zandy
that's quite
XX
good, actually.
Carroll.
Yeah. Zandy Carrolls. I quite like.
There we go.
Do whatever we need to.
Carolovich.
Can we now call it? Can we try and call him Zandy Carrolls from now on? Zandy Carrolls. I mean, he does
Zandy
like
Carolovich.
Randy Diamond.
well, he does 3 things every season, so we don't have to use it that often, which is lucky for us.
One of them's been injured.
Slight
I love that.
sidetrack.
Zlatan scores a magnificent.
It-
Yeah.
yeah.
Zlatan scores a lovely header, and we're talking about Andy Carroll's bicycle kick. I told you I'd like it in Keno. Right then, on the other side of it, we've got Liverpool, who again, I'm obviously a Liverpool fan. I felt a little bit. We did okay without pulling up any trees. It was just one of those games.
Mignolet, I was really impressed
Oh,
with.
yeah.
Not only did he make some big saves, but in the atmosphere that is Old Trafford, there was an instant where he tried to clear the ball and Zlatan closed him down. It went very fortunately over the crossbar. I actually think Mignolet, probably of last season, in that game, following that mistake, would look nervy. And from that mistake, which I think
That's
it was a
true.
mistake, a bit of a misunderstanding, he probably should have committed more to it initially. He bounced back and he gave one of the best performances I think he's given in a Liverpool shirt. And whilst Liverpool had, I think, slightly more shots than United, you'd have to say United had the better opportunities. And Mignolet, like, he turned up big, and despite, you know, a few nervy, kind of typical Mignolet moments, he looked solid and he looked like he could be trusted. And I think it's testament a little bit to Klopp. I wonder how much he would have kept, like, dropped Mignolet if it wasn't for the whole carrier situation. But at the same time, I was really thoroughly impressed by him.
There was the one save he made, I think, off Ibrahimovic's free kick in the
The free
first
kick
half,
was very good.
which was he didn't see until very late because there was they were trying to do the typical sort of home players in the wall thing, and then they sort of get out the way. He drove it low. Did it take?
Took a
deflection as
it
well.
didn't take a deflection, but it was a bit like Pogba. It wasn't very discreet about it. He was
No,
like
they moved
he
away
could have just
too
sort of
early.
charged
Yeah.
the ball away. It was like, okay, Paul, I think Mignolet might figure out where it's going now.
Yeah.
What they should have done really is just pop it in the other corner. That sounds good enough, right?
The save was still very good though, and he also did well. He did very well in the
as a
second
goalkeeper,
half.
Proudy, how did you rate Mignolet's performance? And De Gea, actually. De Gea's distribution, by the way, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I shouldn't like David De Gea really because he plays for Manchester United, but his distribution with the ball at his feet is like a deep line playmaker.
Sabutio-esque.
He's
I
a
dare
complete
say-
goalkeeper.
I'm not even joking, right? I think David De Gea would be better at deep line playmaker than Zabaleta is for City. I'd love to see how he got on. I bet he's quite good outfield. I bet he's the sort of keeper that just you know when the rule gets imposed, Proudy, of you've got to stay in your area. That is David De Gea's worst nightmare.
One thing I wish in football was more socially acceptable is when you're 4-0 up to swap an outfield player with the goalkeeper and just let him go up front and see if he can get another goal.
Just play
Neuer
him
would
as the
be great
sweeper.
at that.
That-
Neuer would have
that-
like 20 goals a season if he did.
That should be socially acceptable to do in modern day football. I feel
Not
like, you know,
socially.
equal rights for goalkeepers and that.
Well, I remember Stuart Pearce did it years ago for City, and I think he sent on Nicky Weaver for a CDM and put David James up front. And then that was it for the last 5 minutes, and then they were just smashing the ball into the box room.
A pioneer of goalkeeper rights.
We've talked about this before, right? But the best bit about that story is that John Macken, I think is it John Macken? Is that how you say it? I think it was that. Who is a striker just left on the bench? David James brought on to play up front. I mean, how annoyed would you be? Watching David James, hang on, is our keeper got an injury? He doesn't seem to be.
It's a bit like in FIFA when people put their keeper on penalties when they're winning.
Yeah.
Not a fan of that.
Do you do that, Jack?
No, I would if it
Because
was a thing in real life.
You've got to be winning, so of course you haven't.
I mean, I'll go walk out now with the burn and get some cold water on my arm.
We love some FIFA banter on this show. So yeah, I think both teams will be relatively pleased with the point. I kind of said that at the start, and neither team will be too damaged by this, which I think is important for both sides, especially Liverpool, who still haven't actually won this year under Klopp, of course.
Have
played
they not?
tonight. No, not in 2017. Draws and
realise that.
losses. Draw against Southampton. Loss against Southampton. Draw against Plymouth and Sunderland, and of course played Plymouth
I
tonight.
mean, Plymouth,
maybe-
titans of European football, let's not forget.
Maybe I mean, you made them look like titans of European football at Anfield. Maybe 2017 is the year like Palace had. Maybe that's the sort of calendar year curse. Maybe it
I
didn't
hope
pass
not.
to Liverpool.
I'm going to behind the camera a little bit.
I've seen.
I may or may not be having the Liverpool game on right now. I've just seen Karius sprint out to about 50 yards out and spew the ball into the stands really quite badly. So, a sign of things to come for Liverpool maybe in the next couple of years. Right, shall we talk about a few other little bits and pieces that have happened?
I'm just
Diego
glad that our
Costa,
streams are in sync.
Proudy, have you yet to be offered money from China yet? Because everyone else seems to have been, including Diego Costa.
Not yet. I've probably got to talk to my agent. I'm sure he'll sort something out for me. I must be, if Diego Costa's on 30 million a year, I must be worth at least 200 grand a month. So it's.
You went much lower than that, did you see? What do you think about the whole Chelsea Costa thing then? I think it's kind of been resolved now that, he will end up staying. Conte's talked him round. He doesn't want the 30 million a year. I mean, he probably still does, but he was happy to stay at Chelsea for now. Was that all a bit dangerous for Conte and Chelsea?
I think I feel like the media is causing this. I don't know if there is actually a rift between the two. I don't know, because Costa and the media haven't got along very well, I would say. I think the media... Same with Guardiola. I mean, they've targeted like Costa because of his aggressive nature.
Yeah, he doesn't fit in. He doesn't fit in.
Yeah, so I think they're trying to make up these stories probably to, unsettle him. I don't know if he actually has got an offer, because I know with this new rule in China now, you're only allowed a certain amount of foreigners in the team at one time.
The thing that's confused me about that is that's not actually a new rule. It's just the rule is
decided to enforce it.
Basically. Well, the rule basically was that in China you have to have a Chinese goalkeeper,
which is hilarious.
You had to have you couldn't have more than 4 foreign players, and one of them had to be from an Asian nation or like from an Asian FA nation. So you would basically have 3 foreign players and then an Australian, South Korean, or Japanese player. That was kind of how it worked. But now I think they've changed it now, so you can have any 4 foreign players. Like the Asian rule isn't a rule anymore.
Imagine if that goalkeeper rule applied to England. We'd have amazing.
Pep thought it was a thing with centre backs, so he had to buy John Stones. He's like, having English centre backs, so we better get the best one.
We'd have loads of amazing keepers and just no outfield players.
No, it'd just be loads of goals, wouldn't it?
Could go that way.
The thing that's annoyed me a little bit is
Rob Green has been petitioning for that for some time. Well, I'm sorry, Rob, but it ain't happening.
I mean, Mark Bunn's also sat there waiting.
Jack just said, we both said it at the same time. Yeah.
Chris Kirkland, Scott Carson, they're all thinking I've got a chance.
One thing that's annoyed me a little bit is there's a lot of armchair kind of European fans who don't necessarily know the rules of China, which I'm going to hold my hands up. I only know because of Football Manager, because I've been there a few times.
Know the rules of China.
But a lot of people are going, they're just buying up the league, so they're going to make the Chinese Super League. They don't care about their own youth. Like, they have a limit of 4 foreign players, and the rest have to be Chinese. And I think 2 players in the matchday squad have to be under the age of 23, and one of them has to start. Like in China, they have better rules than the Premier League does for trying to develop like the young players of China. So I feel like that's a bit of a null point.
It's all a bit FIFA Street, isn't it, though? It feels like you can have your 4 superstars and then Paddy Kenny on your bench.
They're clearly going for the entertainment factor where you're only allowed Chinese goalkeepers, because not to stereotype here, but in China, basketball is massive. So anyone who's good at catching a ball plays basketball, not football. So you just don't get good goalkeepers in China, and that's why you get like Ramirez, who's recently moved there. He's like 50 goals for the year or something stupid.
Yeah, I saw Pella, some of the goals that Graziano Pella had scored over there.
I forgot.
The keeper didn't even try. For most of them, they were just flying into the top corner. I was thinking he hasn't even tried to dive.
He sat there going, "When you give me 40 million a year, I'll try."
Yeah.
Yeah, that must be. I mean, imagine just sitting in the changing room next to Hulk, just thinking, "Well, I'm on 20 quid a week here. I don't really know what this Hulk guy is doing with his." And his entourage just in there as well.
And the opposite Chinese keeper's thinking, he's going to be having like 40-yard shots at me all game. Like, I don't know what to do about it. I think on the Costa thing, I think it was kind of surprising because it seemed as though Conte and Costa, like the relationship between those two had been really good. And I would have put that down to one of the reasons why Costa had been back to his best this year was that Conte seemed to know how to manage Costa's personality.
How to cage the beast, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. And they seem to be getting on pretty well. So it is why it was odd. And I do doubt the kind of... Obviously, an offer's come in for him. And when they're offering that much money, anyone would sort of take a few looks at it, just to see what was what. But I think the bust-up thing, I question whether there was that bad, because their relationship's been pretty good, it seems, this year.
If there is a bust-up, I can only imagine it's over the
that would have been an amazing bust-up as well.
It would have been. I'm backing Conte. I wouldn't normally, but, I mean, my word. The only thing I can think there would be a bust-up over is Conte saying something like, sort your agent out. If you don't know who Diego Costa's agent is, research that and see who else he's an agent of, and then make the connection to China, and all of a sudden it all makes sense when George Mendes.
One massive deal has happened to go to China, and that has been Andy McNeil of Morton in Scotland has gone to Guangzhou.
Carroll there?
No, Andy McNeil of Morton, Scottish Hall of Famer, 29 years old. He's gone to be the reserve goalkeeper for Guangzhou in China.
That's
Good
amazing.
grief.
That's like winning the lottery. That's
I just
essentially
find
what
it funny
he's done.
because I wonder if no one. He's probably thinking they're going. I'll go as coach and then I'll just play.
But
Like,
who's
they'll put me
scouted
in
that?
goal.
Who's scouted that? Who's gone, do you know
How
what
do
we
you
need?
apply? How do you apply for that? Proudy could do it.
Well, the side-
Right, Proudy for China needs to be a thing that we start. Right, okay, Proudy, you are a Sunday League keeper with a somewhat below average ability.
How many clean sheets have you got this season,
Can you-
Proudy?
I've got 7. I mean, that's got to be
7?
worth at least.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's 7 million a year, I think. That's a really clean sheet.
my
I think
favourite-
we need to try and send you to China somehow.
My favourite thing about this story is like the goalkeeper discussed it with the manager before. Can you imagine the Morton goalkeeper goes to the coach, Gaffer, and I'm only 29, but I've been given an offer to be a goalkeeping coach in China, and I think I've got to go. Go back to the changing room. You get on the pitch next time. Like, it's just a bit of a weird.
So he went from Morton.
Yeah, age
But they
29 as well. He's not actually that old.
He's 29. Mark Bud's going, I've waited my whole life for this. What's happened?
That is his
Why would I be
dream.
that is his dream.
Oh no! Well, before we move on, did you hear about the non-league footballer who Jack Seeley, who he went to Hong Kong for a few years and then got citizenship there, and now he's in the Chinese Super League as well.
Love
and he
that.
was playing. I think it was at the 11th tier of English football as well. When so now he's earning, I think it's 10,000 a week. When he was only earning about £40 an
Proudy.
appearance.
This
Does
is
a Hong
looking
Kong
more
is
player
you,
like
Proudy.
treated as foreign?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we could have an influx of players from like non-league just going to Hong Kong to gain
That'd be
citizenship
amazing, though.
to
That
play
would
for
be
China.
amazing.
Also, if any Chinese Super League teams are listening, Aston Villa would be happy for you to take Mark Bunn off our hands, and I think I speak on behalf all
15 million?
All,
Would you say 15? 15 mil? Bunny?
yeah, 15 quid. You know,
15
we're not,
quid.
We're not
Right.
that bothered.
You'll
Go
pay
for
for his
it.
flight. It's got to that point.
He can take his goalkeeping academy over there as well. Which I
We've
know he
got Dimitri Payet in the running order. We're actually going to save that until next week because, frankly, folks, nothing has happened with Dimitri
I
Payet.
will
That's true.
say, on this, the fact that West Ham are like, yeah, we want 30 million, and then they're lowballing Hull, and
Yeah, that is
Sunderland
quite
is just
funny.
taking the mick. Like, Sunderland should be putting in like 10 quid bids for him. Going,
I want the North to just go, we'll take him, exchange. We'll have Payet off here. He can open a skills school, something like that. No, Payet literally just looked at China and gone, yeah, I'm down.
He wants to go back to Marseille, though, doesn't he?
My favourite thing was it's like he's liked 10 tweets on Twitter ever, and one of them was from a Marseille fan like last week saying, come back.
I guess we're talking about Payet now, then. We might as well. We've gone too deep into Payet chat. Do you think he'll go? Just in a word, Proudy?
Yes.
Kino?
I can't see how he can stay.
I thought that's that one word.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that'll do. Jack?
I'm going to say no and dare to be different. I think he might
I
be
think
there
he will
still.
go. And he'll be announced tomorrow, probably, thanks to Jack. Right, and that's going to wrap us up. If you've got any questions you'd like to answer, go on.
FA Cup, Lincoln City, what a result against
well,
Ipswich
a big shout out to
Town.
Lincoln for that. Yeah, they've beaten Ipswich, who were one of the worst Championship team performances
I
I've
will
ever
say-
seen from a team ever.
The fact we've got
Awful.
2 non-league teams in the FA Cup fourth round is amazing. Like, I love
Yeah.
that.
Lincoln play Brighton, is it? And Sutton
It is.
play
Leeds.
Leeds. That's a great tie in it. Sutton Leeds, lovely.
If you'd, worst performance from a Championship team you'd seen in the third round. If you'd listened to Danny Murphy last week, Ben, you'd have thought.
Are you okay? Like, you seem a
Against
little
Spurs.
upset about this whole thing.
No, but in all fairness, and Ipswich fans, you won't disagree with me. I know you won't. But it was awful to the levels of. Did you see it, Kino?
A little bit of it.
It was
I thought-
like Sunday
yeah.
League. It was, honestly, Ipswich were like Sunday League. Lincoln looks like the Championship team, and with no sort of
I love it when that
exaggeration there.
You know
Genuinely,
you're in the lower leagues of English football. And there's like a burger van, like within 10 yards of the sideline. Like,
just
that
had
was the
fish and
most
chips.
beautiful
It was
thing.
lovely. I've actually had fish and chips from that corner of the ground before. As I'm sure you have, Jack.
I
Maybe,
have. I was a bit
potentially.
disappointed actually that the Ipswich fans
Would you
were playing the
recommend it?
Stacey West ground.
Yeah, I should say, actually, I got a funny story about Lincoln. As we're chatting about them, last time we went with my dad and my sister, and we bought tickets for the game, and then when we arrived the next day, my dad
Buy
showed
tickets for Lincoln.
yeah, 20 quid it was. I'm not even joking.
No, you're joking.
Football
I'm not
league
even joking.
prices,
Literally was 20 quid.
For all of you? Or
No,
for
for adults, 20 quid for adults. I think it was something like
Wow.
6 or 7 for under 18.
I mean, I can't really criticise them because they're a non-league team, but that is ridiculous.
It was upset. They weren't non-league at the time. And my dad, you sort of go up to the steward and go, "Oh yeah, where are we sitting?" He just pointed and went, "Anywhere on there, mate." Just the whole, the stand that was full yesterday. The big sort of, I don't know what it
They were
is,
all
sort of
full
like
yesterday, to be fair.
but the 7,000 seater one, the big one along
the co-op.
along the sides. Yeah, whatever it is. I think we
It's literally
sat.
a co-op.
I will
He
say,
just pointed and just went, wherever you want, mate. It was just like, oh, okay, fair enough. It was not very full.
the thing that sickens me the most is that Lincoln, if you watch the previous leg of Lincoln City, the university little shed that they have at one end of the ground was empty. No students turned up. As soon as Ipswich are playing, it's full. Now, I don't know how many of those people are students, but, sort it out. When I was
I hate students.
that used to be the family ground. Now it's the student ground, and they only turn up for the championship teams. Shocking.
Yeah, well, at least they filled it. It's great to see, though, Lincoln and Sutton doing so well in the FA Cup. Hopefully they progress a little bit further. That'd be nice. But that is going to bring us to the end. First of all, Proudy, thank you for joining us this week.
Hey.
It's been good being on again. Thank you.
We might have you again, who knows? We'll see what
He
the
won the
listeners say.
feature. He's not welcome back.
Listeners, if you want Proudy back, let us know. If you don't want him back, tweet him. It's funnier that way. Keno, pleasure as always.
He'll retweet every one of those tweets as well that you send him. So
You will.
I'll
Make
add
sure
them on my Excel spreadsheet. So.
make sure they.
As long as you follow him. Keno, pleasure.
Thank you, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Jack, good to see you again, my friend.
Well, we didn't see each other, but I appreciate listening to your soothing tone.
We did have
for an
a
hour.
Christmas. That
We
counts.
did. That's fair. I owe you Dominoes.
Like you do indeed. Yes, if you want to check us out, ForTheFansShow.com, at ForTheFans on Twitter, ForTheFansShow as well, or at ForTheFansShow, sorry, on Twitter, at ForTheFansShow on YouTube as well. You can also check us out on SoundCloud. No, you can't. We don't do it anymore. We're in love with care. From it to Benji.
Classic football shirts. Classic football shirts.
He'll put another advert in at the end, probably. We'll see you again. We're love with care. From it to Benji and everyone here. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
It's a sculpture of a gold Benji. It's perfection. Keno, I think you're going to have to be calling for an oxygen mask over here, my friend.